Hello there to you on Instagram. It's so good to see you. And hello there to you, my design lovelies on Facebook. I'm Donna Hoffman. We love to come out here and talk to you every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Donna Hoffman. They call me the Interior Design Advocate because I love to advocate on behalf of design lovers everywhere, whether you are a design lover working on your own home, whether you're a design lover professional, and you're guiding other people through the design process. We are here for you. We want to make your results amazing, whether they're results you're working on in your own home, amazing, whether they're results that you're getting in your own design business, amazing. We want you to up your game so that you're living your best life, and that's that you're using design to help you to live that best life. Because let's face it, life will hurl enough at you, enough challenge at you. That was my way of bleeping myself out there. Who needs that aggravation? If we can pad our lives and stack the deck in our own favor by using interior design to enhance the daily, day in, day out, hour by hour quality of our life, why wouldn't we do that for ourselves? So how do I do that? Well, first, I have amazing online courses that I use to teach DIY design lovers who are working on your own home how to massively increase your design results. Next, I run a very successful and in-demand luxury interior design company where we help families to design beautiful lives for themselves because I, along with my team, design it for them. And lastly, we're going to be launching in several months an amazing online coaching program for design professionals who want to take their design business to that next level. When things aren't going the way you want them to go in your business, when the going gets tough, the design diva stands up and takes the reins and makes amazing things happen. So today, and every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, I like to stop what I'm doing here at our design studio and come out here and talk to you about a topic that's on your mind or that we get DMs about or questions about. And I am getting questions and have been through the last several months, particularly of the pandemic, getting questions about working with a designer and that it can be scary to work with an interior designer. And I know this from both sides of the table because 1,000 years ago, before I was a trained and gratefully award-winning interior design professional and design business owner, I was a design client. That's how I started out, loving my design in my own home. I hired somebody to help me initially. I loved working on it on my own, but I knew I wanted a result that I didn't believe I could get on my own. And I wanted to see what it would be like to have the luxurious treatment, indulgence of working with an interior designer. And let's face facts, it is a luxury to work with an interior designer. So I worked with 2 interior designers, and I had really interesting and kind of uneven experiences with both of them. Both very talented women. And then there was a third designer I interviewed and did not hire. I did not care for her approach at all. So as a design client myself, when I was a design client 1,000 years ago, before I was practiced and trained and had gone back to school to study design, I know what it feels like to be a client when your project is jumping off the rails. It does not feel pleasant. Now jump forward in time. Now I'm a practicing designer. I'm garnering a wonderful team. We're getting recognition. We're getting awards. We're getting published. I worked on a really interesting writing project, and I interviewed designers and clients across the United States and up into Canada. And I asked them to tell me nightmare stories working with a designer or working with a client, and dream stories working with a client or working with a designer. And the answers were amazing. The stories were very different, but what things tracked back to had a common theme. So given that, and one day I'll share more of that with you, but given that, and given what I've witnessed in my own design business, when clients come to me after having had a not so great experience with another design team, sometimes a design team I don't know, sometimes a design team I do know and who I think they're really talented on the creative side. These are the 3 most challenging things I believe people struggle with. Men or women, people of all budgets, people of all project sizes. These are the 3 most common challenges that I see design lovers struggling with when they are design clients to an interior designer or an interior design team. Doesn't matter if it's renovation, new home build or purely decorative design. And if you have a question on this topic, when I'm done teaching, I am happy to take questions on it while I'm here live. But number one that I think is a biggie and it's hard, learning or allowing yourself or be willing to trust your designer on the creative side. It's hard, boy, especially if you love interior design. It is hard to give over the reins and just trust that creative process. The common fear is, will it look like me? Will I love it? You know, what is this going to be like when it's all done? A common refrain I hear from design clients is, you know, I have a really hard time picturing what it's going to look like. I'm looking at all these postage stamp size swatches of things. So trusting the designer on her or his creative process. And one of the things you can do, and we'll talk about this in greater detail later, is vet them well so that you really understand what their creative process is. We'll talk about vetting in a little bit. So really common, if you're feeling the jittery knees or the knocking knees, trusting a designer on her creative processes, that is a leap, and it is hard to do as a design client. Something else that I think is really hard to do is letting go of the process side, not the design side, but the process. You know, I was down at the design center today doing creative work with a client, but yesterday it was all process. It was work orders and sketches and paperwork and the logistics, the devil of the details that are in every design project. So it's really important that as a design client, you don't try to micromanage that process side. You have to let your designer work with the processes they've developed. For example, important that you don't just think you're off the hook as a design client, that somebody else will just take care of all of it. You have to participate. You have to show up to meetings on time, preferably. You need to answer emails, and not a week later, 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later. You need to answer emails on a timely, responsive basis so that your project can keep moving. We worked with a client years ago, fabulous couple. This has nothing to do with how fabulous they were. Terrific people. But when they would go off the grid, they would go off the grid. So their project would move and then stop. And then move and then stop. And it was just a constant restarting, it felt like, of the momentum of the project. You have to participate in that in your designer's processes. So again, how do you know you'll like her processes or his project management processes I'm talking about? You gotta do more vetting so you really understand what those processes are about, what's expected of you, what they expect that they need to do. I mean, they have a lot to bring to the table. Your designer has many roles and responsibilities, but you have a few too, and you need to participate in those. So letting go of the project management side, the process side, very hard for some clients to do. Either they try to micromanage it and they just end up mucking it all up and muddying the waters and slowing things down and creating churn, or they end up not doing enough and slowing down the momentum of their own project. The first piece that we talked about was not trusting. It's hard to trust your designer's creative process because I guarantee, however it is that your designer looks at design, is very different than the way you look at it as a DIY design lover. And the last thing that is really hard for design clients, and I get it, and this is for design clients of all walks of life, of all budget sizes, it is very hard to feel like you are not in control of your project, that you are part of the wave that's moving through the project, but you're not in control of the project. You're not the wave machine. You're not driving things. Your designer or your design team is. Not easy to do, but mission critical, which is why vetting to find the right designer or the right design team is absolutely a must. And so you now know where the tripping points are in terms of how you're going to feel, common feelings. So you're going to ask the right questions now. Hey, once I sign with you, or should I sign with you, take us through, what does your creative process look like? Let them answer. Ask questions. Try it on. How's that going to feel for you? Hey, once I hire you, what does your project management process look like? Let them answer you. See how that fits for you. Once we start you, what's our beginning, our middle, and our end? How am I going to be kept updated on my project status? How frequently will I hear from you? How frequently will we have meetings? Let them take you through the process so that you walk into it with your eyes wide open. I had a really interesting conversation with a super client we're working with now, and about a year ago. We've been working with them for a while because it's a big design build, new residents up in the Princeton, New Jersey area. And he said something fabulous to me. He said, Donna, I always thought interior design was really nebulous, but hearing you talk about it, I see that it's not. I see that it's very process driven, which is why I really am enjoying working with you so far. And guys, has nothing to do with me telling you that I'm terrific, you should work with me. I'm saying in whatever city you're in, I want you to find your phenomenal designer. I want you to find that designer if that's important to you to hire a designer. I want you to find your perfect designer. I want you to engage them, and I want you to have just a magical experience with them, because when there's fabulous collaboration between designer and client, the magic happens when the rubber hits the road. It really does. So you want to make sure you're vetting well, asking the right questions. And there's no question you really, about process, about creative process, about project management. There's no question you can't ask. A good designer should be able to speak to his or her processes. What's your approach on budget? It's not a bad question. What is your approach on budget? Budget doesn't mean low cost. I know it sometimes takes on that moniker, right? Like, oh, this is a budget way to do this, have this dress or have this pair of shoes. Budget actually just refers to the use of resources, the monetary resources. So to ask a designer, what is your budget approach? Don't be afraid to talk about the dollars. It's just a thing, like a paint chip or a fabric swatch. And designers, if you're watching this, don't be afraid to talk about the budget. Don't be afraid to talk about a resource. You wouldn't be afraid to talk about paint chips and fabric swatches. Why be afraid to talk about the budget? Nothing can happen in your project without the blessing of the budget. So I am not saying that you should hire a designer or that you shouldn't hire a designer. If hiring a designer is on the charts for you, if it's on deck now, or something you plan to do. Maybe you're doing a big renovation. You don't have the time or the skill set or the resources, meaning not the dollars, but knowing where to go for certain things or to get things that you couldn't do on your own. I worked with a client today who said, I almost sent you more pictures about things that I want for our exterior space or patio, but I thought, I want to see what you're going to come up with, because I know you see things in a much broader, larger, and more specialized sense than I do, and you know a lot more about what's out there. I know what's out there in catalog. You know what's out there in the showrooms and the trending and so forth. So I want you to make sure you're hiring the right designer, asking the right questions, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable and nervous as you're starting to get to know this designer. One of the first questions we ask people before they hire us is, hey, what's your biggest fear in hiring a designer? And one of the biggest fears people share with us, I'm afraid it won't look like me. So have the conversation. How do we make sure that whatever you create is going to look like me? And of course, you're also going to speak to references and ask the questions about the very same things you're kind of afraid of. All right. And don't be afraid to ask those questions to other design clients, because I've just shared with you the 3 most common challenges for design clients. So you're not alone. You are not alone. And hey, girlfriend or guy friend, you're not alone here, because you're among friends here at the Interior Design Advocate. So we love to take your questions and help you on whatever it is we're talking about. This week, it's challenges facing you if you're a design client, or common challenges. Next week, we are talking, as I'm going to take your questions now. I'm going to stop talking with my hands. Next week, we're looking at a fun topic. It's interior design and self-care. How to use interior design to create a home that feels fabulous to you. And you know what? After the pandemic and the dark winter and all the stuff in the news, I think we all could use a little extra nurturing and TLC from our home space. So we'll be looking at that next week. All right, so I'm going to start taking some questions. I'm going to look here on Facebook as well. I've got some Insta questions. I'll take those very swiftly as well. So I'm getting a good afternoon from Beverly and a hi from Stone Mountain, Georgia, from Shelly. Martina's here. Amy Higgins is here. Okay, so Kathy is saying, when I questioned a designer about some different paint colors other than what she said would look good, and I sampled the color and I wasn't liking it, she told me I should find someone in whom I had more confidence. Okay, so let me repeat that to everybody. So Kathy had an issue where she questioned a designer about some paint colors, wasn't happy with the paint colors, and rather than giving her more suggestions, the designer said, you know, I think you should find a designer that you have greater faith in. This is deep, and I wish, Kathy, I could just talk to you. I need a microphone so we could have a real conversation. We should do that one day. Oh, wouldn't that be good? Like a roundtable Q&A on this. So here's what I would say without being able to ask more questions. So a first instinct is, well, the designer might be insecure and felt uncomfortable being questioned. I know as a designer, if you're watching this, when a client doesn't like something that is presented to them, I always dig to find out why it's a disconnect. Is the color too shrill? Is it too noisy? Is it too quiet? You know, where is the disconnect? It's never about you as the designer. It's always about the client. It's always about the client. And let's face facts, guys. Designers hit clients where they live, in their home and in their wallet. That's some tenuous and sensitive, I should say, better word, sensitive and vulnerable, territory. So definitely, my first reaction listening to this as a design coach, and I coach designers as well, is that, if that designer really was clear in who she is, she should be able to speak to, okay, let's take this apart. Where aren't these colors working for you? Now, that said, Kathy, I don't know how you approach your designer with when you said you objected. I don't know if you approach your designer by trying to give her a lesson in design, and if you were condescending in any way. I doubt you were, because you're here in TIDA, so I know you're a fabulous design diva, but I don't know. Did you say something that was not said in a respectful manner to a design professional who has studied and trained in the craft? I remember, oh, this is hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. I worked with this couple. They were nice. He was a little odd, and he was a doctor. And when we would walk through a showroom looking at things, rather than saying he didn't like something, saying, no, that's not my thing, or I prefer that, he would tell me why he didn't like it, and then he would name the design style that it represented, which is why he didn't like it. And 10 times out of 10 times, he was wrong when he would name the design style about why he didn't like this XYZ thing. And I just, kept a nice, calm demeanor. I didn't say anything, but I thought, this guy's trying to give me a lesson in design, and he doesn't know, he can't find, his way out of a paper bag right now with a flashlight and a map. So I think that when a project falls apart, as has happened with Kathy, it could be the designer at fault. It could be that the client jumped the rails, or it could be kind of a combination. I don't know if, Kathy, when you were working with your designer throughout your whole project, were you continually at loggerheads with this, designer? Was it not working before this happened? So not finding fault, but is there a little bit of responsibility on both sides of the aisle? I don't know. I wasn't there. But these are just some things to think about so that, Kathy, when you do go forward to find a designer who is the right fit for you, ask questions about the creative process. Hey, this is what happened with me with another designer. This is what I'm looking for. How do you work? How do you work when a client doesn't like, am I supposed to like everything you present to me? Answer no. If a designer is really good, a good designer, and this is something that I know my team has enjoyed about working here, because I use a design fingerprint process that's amazing and makes you think immediately like your client. A good designer should be able to get you about 85% boom on that first presentation. Should really just get you where you're like, oh my gosh, wow, how'd you come up with that? I love it. You captured me, you captured my hubs, you got us both. That's a good process. If you feel like your designer's just sort of like throwing pasta against the wall, I'm going to say you may not be working with a designer who works in a process that is going to speak to what you love and who you are and what you want. So, okay, I want to get to other questions because I see a lot of comments coming in. Okay, skipping this one.
Yeah, that's what I just
Okay, so one I just answered. Okay, Michelle said, I won't hire another by the hour designer. Michelle, I'm a by the hour designer for certain clients. So here's what I would say. Don't ever hire a by the hour designer if you don't know the range of where your project should land. I think that the good thing about hourly The good thing about by the hour designers is that it keeps you as the client very responsible for how you use time. Very responsible. Clients don't waste time when they're paying for time. They're not BSing and schmoozing through meetings and calling you every time they have a new dream about something. They're using time respectfully, like calling an attorney or an accountant. When a client is on fixed fee, and I do those types of projects as well myself, now suddenly it's like loosey-goosey, and the clients don't feel that they have to be as judicious in the way they use time. So when you do a fixed fee project bid as a designer, you are adding pad to that time charge projection to make sure that you are not going to come in over the hour projection that you actually created to come up with that fixed fee. So Michelle, I wouldn't be afraid of a by the hour designer. I would be afraid of a designer who doesn't have processes. And I'd say, hey, listen, can I please get a forecast? Where do you think my design fee is going to land? Between what and what? And how do we determine that? And walk me through what are the fees I can count on, so that you know where your fee is going to go. I hope that helps you, Michelle, but that is a common concern and a common question. So I hope I answered you well there. Okay, let's see what else is happening here. Okay, so Kathy is saying that this was just a paint consult and that's it. Kathy, whose problem we looked at. I'm going to say you were dealing with perhaps there was an insecurity in the designer themselves. And I don't know how well trained this designer was either. And also, guys, you have to sample paints. You cannot see undertone from a laser printed, paint deck. You do have to sample paints. So there it is. Okay, so Jennifer said, how do you find a designer that will be able to guide and choose style ideas that will be great for resale? You asked that question. Have you worked in residences that, were going to be up for resale? How would you guide me through this? I would also talk to real estate agents in your area, Jennifer, and say, listen, are there any designers who you think are really good at this, who know how to put together a residence that can go out for sale in a year, 3 years, or 5 years, and see who they know? Real estate agents tend to know who the good designers are in your town. So I would definitely use that as a resource as well. Great question there. Okay, also, Lori says, do I need to search for a designer who can accommodate my design style, or should a designer be able to work in any design style? I love this question, Lori. Love this question. Do you love this question?
I love it.
Katie loves this question too. Lori, you're getting hearts from us, but you're getting hearts on Insta. This is such a good question. Can I just tell you, I was all, sad about something happening in my life, a little something. When I first started coming out here, I was a little wiped out, tired from it. But I'm having a good time with you girls and guys, or guy. There's one guy here. Usually there's one guy. Thank you. I want to thank you for that. I love your brilliant brains. All right. So here's the story. This is tough. Okay. If there are designers out there, you're welcome to chime in if you have a different opinion. I think there is a way to read a portfolio and to be able to see range in a designer's portfolio. And if you see range and if you see what you like, I think you have an honest discussion with the client to say, listen, I love what I see in your portfolio. I don't exactly see me in your portfolio. I would like to be, making this up, rustic farmhouse. What do you think about that style? Do you enjoy it? Okay, why haven't you done it more? So for example, we're talking about to a client now who wants to do modern with us. I'm so happy to do modern. If you look at my portfolio, it's almost all transitional. A little farmhouse here, a little transitional leaning traditional. What happens for many designers, myself included, people see your portfolio and they go, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that, what you did on that project. Now, you don't repeat projects, but you start to get known for certain sensibility that you did for a project. It gets photographed and you put it out there. Conversely, I did a project that it came out beautifully. It was a very hard to shoot project because the house was in the shape of an octagon. Impossible to get a camera in there. But it wasn't a style. It was a very guy lodge look kind of style. And it wasn't a style I really wanted to promote for my company. I don't have anything against that style, but I didn't want to do more of it. And I didn't think I could build a business on it in this area where I practice. So I didn't photograph it, so it's not on my portfolio. So number one, I have to say this more succinctly, designers don't photograph everything they do. It's costly to photograph, or they may feel that it's There's not enough to be able to photograph to justify getting a photographer out there, so I'm not going to put it on my portfolio. Or a client doesn't want you to come back in and photograph, or a client decided not to finish the project because their financial position changed and now they didn't do any accessorization or art and it's like a half finished space, whatever. So I think you can, Lori, talk to a designer who you feel is talented and say, listen, what do you think about this style? I don't see it a lot in your portfolio. And the designer could say, look, I don't like that style, so don't hire me for that. There are two styles that if people came to me for, I would say, you know, I get that style, I admire it, I respect it, but I don't think I'm the right designer for it. I would recuse myself. So I would have a conversation with the designer about it, Lori. That said, there are designers who make a great living and who are quite successful. They do a particular look and they do it over and over and over and over again, and people go to them for that look. That's Sally Jones and she does and that's Mary Jenkins and she does and that's a valid way of working too. I enjoy as a designer working across various design styles. So you'll see some different styles on our portfolio. So I think it really depends upon the client. I mean, look, I look at great designers like Jamie Drake, like Albert Hadley. I know you're probably bored hearing me talk about those designers, but they were chameleon-like in what they could do. Yeah, there are some signature things they did, but they did a lot that wasn't the same old, same old. So, Lori, I say go for it. Find your fabulous designer. Okay, Dawn is saying, what if I'm not ready to make purchases, but I want to know what the room will look like? Advice? Yeah, Dawn, when you're vetting, you say to somebody, listen, I'm interested only in a design plan, and I'm not ready to purchase. I'll be real clear with you. I'm not ready to purchase because I don't have the bandwidth time-wise, or I don't have the budget to do it all right now, but I want at least a vision. So when I do start purchasing, it's going to make sense to me. Do you work in those ways? Some designers will say, yes, absolutely. Some designers will say, no, I do the full thing. Why don't you come back and see me when you're ready to do the full thing? Or better answer is, why don't you find somebody who can work with you on those kinds of phases or stages? And maybe, Dawn, you want to think about doing, e-design with somebody where you end up doing your own purchasing. I think my friend Tracy Connell in Dallas does e-design. I don't know, but you could just Google e-design or Tracy Connell, Traci Connell, Connell. I think she has like a design in a box kind of thing. Okay. Tons of Instagram questions coming in. Beverly is saying, okay, she's answering Kathy. Okay, Lynn, you're answering somebody too. I don't really know what you're saying there. So final two questions. Sandra is saying, and while you're putting in your final two questions, next week we're talking about interior design and self-care, how to use your home design to make yourself feel good or feel better, but feel good. And if you've missed any portion of this really fun thing, Instagram Live, YouTube, you can follow us on YouTube. There it is. You can find us on YouTube at The Interior Design Advocate, and you can see any one of our Facebook Lives / Instagram Lives. And if you're not following us on our feed at decorating.genius on Instagram, you are missing the party at decorating.genius. And if you're curious about what we're doing in our design studio, like I posted some video today about what we were doing today in the studio, at IDH Designs is from my design studio. That's at IDH Designs. Okay, last two questions coming at you. Sandra is saying, I am an interior designer. I had a situation where I chose a large coffee table. I presented a scaled floor plan, but now the client thinks it's too big. What should I do? All right, Sandra. So first of all, I want you to take yourself out of it. It's not about you. It's about the client. So do not take this personally. That's, designers are such sensitives, or they're creatives. So first thing, it's not you. It's about the client, their experience. What do they want? What do they want to live with? So the first thing I would ask is, okay, we looked at this space plan. We know from a scale perspective, we need something with this type of size to hold court because of X, Y, Z. And you should be able to, as a designer, describe to your client, explain to your client the design logic, the design strategy behind why you are recommending whatever you're recommending. See what size coffee table he or she wants instead, and consider it. And then you can explain, here's why I don't agree with it. Or, It's not my first choice, but it could work if we did X. You know, it's not my first choice, but it could work if we did Y. Or you know what? It's not my first choice, and here's why. But at the end of the day, this is your home, and I want you to love it. And if you're going to feel better with a coffee table of this scale and size, let's do a coffee table for you in this scale and size. I was with a client today at the design center, and she pulled some fabrics that I knew absolutely did not work with everything else that she had selected. I didn't say anything. I just listened and I watched, and I draped them over my arm to bring them back to the table where we were working, where we had her board. Some of the things she had pulled were options. I had pulled some things that I knew were pretty spot on, and I know I pulled some things that were like an over pull, but might work, might not. I was able to just kind of go through, put things down. She was able to see what worked, what didn't. She giggled. She said, "I see you got rid of a lot of my fabrics." And I just said they weren't as optimal as some of these other choices, but some of the things you found are viable. Here's one that is. Here's something else I found that works because of this reason. And I was able to talk her through the logic of what we were doing and why. I'm moving color here. I'm adding texture there. This will draw the eye up. This will ground the blood. You need to be able to describe in strategic linear thought why you are recommending things that you have. So Sandra, I would approach it in that way. Tell me why this isn't working for you. Great. And try to really listen to what's going on for the client. Listen to underneath the text. Text is what somebody says. Subtext is what they mean. So are they objecting to the beef? Is it too, just because the dimension, I'm making this up, might be 48 by 48, but is the silhouette of the table just too beefy and bulky and heavy and lumbering feeling? Do we need a different silhouette on that? Or is it the overall footprint? And are you spot on in this table? I'm going to assume that you are, that you need whatever size table that you have recommended, and you have the pass-through that you need. So I would ask what's not working for the client. Don't take it personally. Listen in order to understand better. And then find out from the client, what's your idea? What did you want here? Okay, how could we make that work? Could we make that work? At the end of the day, and I had this conversation with a client about something she wanted to do in her family room that I didn't think was optimal. I said, listen, this is not a direction I would go in, but at the end of the day, this is your home. I want you to love it. And if doing this is what will make you love it, then let's do that. And she said, I'd rather do something that I love that you agree with too. I said, great, so let's find that instead. Because I had already garnered this client's trust and confidence. And there comes a point in every project. Have you guys ever heard of or seen that old movie called To Sir with Love? It's from the 60s, and I saw it in reruns because I'm not that old. But in it, there's this teacher. He works in like a London tough neighborhood school district, and the kids are throwing spitballs at him, and they're just treating him like dirt. And he just won't quit, and he just keeps teaching, and he keeps working with them. And eventually, I have a piece of hair that just keeps kind of coming over my eye there. Sorry. He just keeps working at them and teaching them. And eventually, these tough guy kind of girls and guys see that this teacher is really in their corner and that they can trust him. And they start calling him sir. And then by the end of the school year, when he announces, hey, I'm not staying, I'm leaving, they're crying, and they sing him a song called To Sir with Love. And how much they love him and how much they've appreciated him. I feel like in every design project, there's that To Sir with Love moment. At the beginning of the project, we're not getting spitballs from a client, but a client's excited, they've engaged us, we've gone through a contract negotiation, they've seen what it's all about. We've come recommended to them, or they found us online or whatever, and they're excited. But now my team and I have to prove ourselves to them. And there's this period where we are really working to garner a client's trust and confidence. And then the magic moment happens. I call it the tipping point, the To Sir with Love tipping point. And I can tell that we've did it. We got your trust and confidence. We earned your trust and confidence. So for the rest of the project, which is the longer lead time part of it, I'm working with my team to making sure that we're, preserving that trust and confidence. But you can feel that moment as a designer when your client, yeah, they get it. They get that I'm here to get them what they want. I'm here because I want them to absolutely love every square inch of what we've created for them. Not only because I want them to love it, I want them to recommend me to other people, right? It's the big pot. So definitely don't take it personally, Sandra. If a client disagrees with you, ask the questions. listen, what is it that they're objecting to? Why are they objecting to it? It's not about you. It's about what they love, what they respond to, and find that solution. Okay. And be willing to entertain as a last resort to say, listen, I don't agree with this, but this is your home. If this is what you want to do, this is what we do. And then you decide, I'm never going to photograph this project because I think that the painted Elvis painting isn't very good looking and I don't want to photograph the space. There it is. Okay. So, oh, Marcia Bedner said that she did have a question that she asked me last week that I didn't get to, and this is off topic, and I know I'm a meanie. I only take on topic questions, but this week I'm going to make an exception because Marcia sent me a question after the fact last week, and I told her to ask this week, and I would. Okay, Marcia said, Donna, per last week, could you please talk more about the trend on the mitered quartz edges to make it look bigger? Yeah, it's it's instead of just having your standard edge on your stone, or it can be marble, it can be a quartzite product like Cambria, or it can be granite. Rather than having a single layer, it looks like you have this really thick, chunky, 3-inch. It's just, all it is you've mitered some stone together, so you have this drop down the front of your kitchen counter and your island, as well as the side profile. And you can do it in a bathroom. I think it's great looking. It adds cost. I think it's very sharp and modern looking. This trend has been gaining steam. It's continuing to happen. We are seeing it out there. I think, honestly, my own 2 cents here, I think it's part of the white kitchen trend, because I think as the white kitchen has just continued to proliferate, people are saying, what can I do that's different? So it's not just another white kitchen, so tile is innovating, and even, grout colors are happening, in the white kitchen. Hardware is innovating in the white kitchen. So I think that edge detail is something really interesting to do. And you can do it, Marcia, you can do it just on your island and not anywhere else in a kitchen, and it looks amazing. It can get kind of heavy-handed when you do it throughout a space, unless it's an uber modern space, and it can be really exciting. It's great to do in a powder room or a bathroom because you don't need as much of it, so it's good from a cost perspective to experiment with it in those ways. I hope I've said enough to you to be able to confidently be able to try it on your own or for a client. So, but I think it's a good look, so I'd go for it. All right, listen, lovelies, I have more work to do, so I need to zip out of here. It was great being with you. Thank you, thank you. I love being able to give to you, but you need to know that you give back to me too. I love being able to hear from you, and it's just wonderful. I feel really blessed. So next week, interior design and self-care, how to use your home and your home's design to make yourself feel better or really good. So there it is. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye now. Hi, this is Donna. Thanks so much for watching. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and comment below so I know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to the Interior Design Advocates channel so you don't miss any of our great content.